Over the years, the Dynasty Warriors series has spawned quite a few spin-offs, some including Gundam, Fist of the North Star, and even One Piece. And while they were all great fan services in their own right, I gotta admit, as a die-hard Zelda fan, I've never played anything like this before. It perfectly balances the classic Dynasty Warriors gameplay of, properly securing your position and making the most of what little time you have available, and then coupling that with Zelda's sort of objective-based gameplay, such as getting a new weapon to access a new area, or getting a weapon to take out a boss, stuff like that. No, sadly, there isn't tons of puzzles to figure out, but hey, this is a Dynasty Warriors spin-off game, so what do you expect? Overall, this is a beautiful game. It features stunningly detailed designs of the legendary characters that you've come to know and love throughout the years. And honestly, from the moment the intro screen plays, you know that you're just not playing some cheap mashup between two franchises. You're actually playing the perfect combination of two excellent series. Warriors fans will appreciate the amount of polish that went into development of this game, and Zelda fans will adore just about every aspect, especially all the little nods to their beloved franchise. I never expected this experiment to turn out as well as it did. It's phenomenal. So let's jump on in and see exactly why that is. The absolute best feature of the game is the fan service. From the rocking remix of the classic Zelda theme to the 13 playable characters, it's all just awesome. Have you ever wanted to play as the warrior version of Impa? How about actually taking part in one of those epic wars mentioned in some of the previous Zelda games? Well, everything is possible here. Battles take part in some of the most memorable dungeons and areas from the previous games in the franchise, and characters who, you never really expected would ever be playable are here. From Midna to Ganondorf himself, absolutely no characters are off limits. I just loved all the attention to detail, and just all the fan service is absolutely brilliant. I also really enjoyed the fact that they kept the core Dynasty Warriors gameplay intact. You're constantly challenged by making choices. Do you hold your current fort you're fighting in, or do you go and try and locate a gold Skulltula that just popped because he killed 1,000 enemies? How about the mid-boss that just dropped in the middle of the field? Those guys usually drop a ton of rupees, so is it worth it to stop what you're doing and go after him? And it's all these little choices coupled together with the more traditional objective-based gameplay that I mentioned before from the Zelda series that really sort of bridges the gap between the two franchises and works incredibly well. Like I mentioned earlier, there are 13 playable characters, some I already told you about, and there's even the promise of more to come. And this helps keep the action fresh and unique because every single character has their own unique skill set. So from Princess Zelda to Sheik and even Darunia, the assortment of characters is brilliant. Each character also has an elemental affinity, which means certain characters will be more useful on certain stages. And this is great because it practically forces you to try new characters, and I love that. There's also a surprisingly deep crafting system in place where you can enhance your characters with more powerful combos, skills. You can create bottles with potions and more and more and more. And I love being able to use rupees to level up the characters that I haven't used in a while because it sort of makes it a lot more enticing to use those characters in later stages, and it prevents you from having to go back and grind out levels with those earlier characters, which I really liked. Boss fights are also really fun. Yeah, they're not as interesting as in the traditional Zelda game, but come on, going up against King Dodongo on the first mission, or going up against something like Goma or the Imprisoned One, come on, that's so cool to have all these different boss characters in one game. And yeah, they're a little bit easier than their original counterparts, but who cares? It's just awesome. Speaking of awesome, the adventure mode is a true delight. Not only does it perfectly recreate the 2D map from the very first Legend of Zelda, but each quote-unquote screen is actually a battle area. You move around the map, selecting an area you'd like to jump into, and then from there the action jumps back into the standard Hyrule Warriors gameplay. But it gives you specific mission parameters. For example, maybe kill a certain amount of enemies within a certain set of time, stuff like that. And what I love is the pairing of the Legend mode with the Adventure mode. The Legend mode is the standard mode, if you will, or story mode, or campaign, or whatever. And it's great because characters you unlock in one mode, you can play in the other mode. And the same goes true for any new weapons you happen to find, heart pieces, etc. And I thought that was brilliant. Hyrule Warriors is also probably the nicest looking Zelda game ever made, at least from a technical perspective. Characters look incredible, and the amount of enemies on screen at once is just amazing. I didn't really experience any slowdown while playing the single player campaign, and the nods to the previous Zelda games are literally everywhere. It's true the level design isn't anywhere near as complex as a traditional Zelda dungeon, but man, this game looks good. The soundtrack is also fantastic. All the remixed tunes are spectacular. I especially love the rock version of the classic theme, and the sound effects are mostly ripped from previous games in the series, so you pretty much know what you're expecting here. Now, some will say that the core action of repeatedly killing enemies over and over again in the same manner is going to get old fast. But for someone like me who loves Zelda, just being able to play as Impa and Zelda and Sheik and all these different characters was more than enough to keep my interest. I kept going back to the game over and over and over again, and I didn't even notice that I was only pressing one or two buttons. I thought I would actually love the co-op mode, which is featured here. It's local only, unfortunately, but there's a lot of technical hiccups I noticed along the way. The worst being the frame rate drop, so I actually found myself sort of skipping that and going back to the single player mode, which was a little bit unfortunate. I had high hopes for that mode. Now, while this acts as one of the best Zelda spin-offs ever made, I gotta say that if you are a Warriors fan, you probably aren't gonna go, oh wow man, this takes the series forward in such a way I've never seen before. Now that's not to say that it's unpolished or anything like that, far from it. It's just that from a gameplay perspective, for Warriors fans, this pretty much feels like the last installment in the series. And that's not a bad thing, it's just don't expect tons of innovation. Hyrule Warriors overall is a fantastic tribute to one of the best video game series ever made. If, like me, you've been a fan of the series since the original NES game, then this is a no-brainer. In fact, I'd say this is a game any Nintendo fan out there should check out. It's absolutely awesome, and I am so excited for 2015's Dragon Quest Heroes just because of how well this game turned out. You can really tell that Omega Force and Team Ninja had a true love for this source material. Honestly guys, in my eyes, this is one of the best games of 2015. I highly recommend you go check out Hyrule Warriors. For the full written review, be sure to check out projectcoe.com.